Well, hello and welcome once again to the DCL Podcast, where we're inviting you to sit back, relax, and we'll be on our way shortly.
Well, welcome back to the DCL Podcast, your podcast to cruise a little smarter. I'm your host, Lake, and I am once again on my own here, but that is okay. We are doing a show that I actually feel like I haven't done in a little while. We're doing a first-time cruiser show, which I think are always special shows, and there's always a lot that you can learn off of a first-time cruiser, things that they feel we would have done differently in a next sailing or wish we had done differently. So we're going to dive right into it. I would like to welcome to the show John. John, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. Thank you for coming on the show and sharing your family's experience. Why don't you tell our listeners a little bit about your Disney and cruising background?
Okay, great. Well, I didn't grow up a huge Disney aficionado. We were never taken there as kids, which is fine. But my first time to Disney World or any Disney property was back in 2021. And at the time, our son was 5 and our daughter had just turned 2. And we stayed at the Swan Reserve. I had no idea what I was getting into. My wife planned everything, and it was a wonderful trip, but I held her back, certainly. So I planned this when we were planning this. It was my turn to take the reins and treat her like a little Disney princess. So we'd been looking at cruising for a while. I've never been on a cruise before. She had taken one when she was growing up, but our kids have never been on one either. So I forget which. I think she was on a Carnival maybe when she was a kid. But so yeah, we were looking at cruises for a while, and we wanted to go on the Wish just because of the theming and because it was the newest ship in the fleet prior to the Treasure. And it's sailing out of Port Canaveral it makes it advantageous if you want to tack on a little bit of Walt Disney World, which we did on the front end. So we found the right itinerary when school was out, and it was kind of a combination Christmas present and little holiday getaway. And we did go with a 3-night sailing, just for a variety of reasons. And we knew what we were getting into with that short of a trip. Still, we were excited. One of my favorite moments from the summer was finally booking it and getting the Disney Cruise app to start showing the countdown. So, I know I've been talking for a while, but that's my Disney background.
You book a 3-night on the Wish. Who sailed with you?
So that would be me, and then my wife Sarah, and then our kids Teddy and Ellie, who are 8 and 5 respectively.
And did you do any pre-night stays?
We flew out to Orlando. We're from Dallas. We flew out to Orlando on January 1st on New Year's Day, bright and early, and we stayed at the Dolphin, and we're there for 2 nights before we boarded on Friday.
Real quick before we get into the cruise, you've done 2 different stays now at the Swan Dolphin area. What draws your family to that resort opposed to staying at one of the different on-property options?
We like that area because it's super walkable. There's tons of restaurants. The boardwalk is nearby. We all, the kids especially, love taking the boat, the Friendship launch, even if it's just from the resort to over to the boardwalk. It's still a fun novelty. They've got a big playground and a pool, and it fits our family really well.
Yeah, it's a very nice area over there. Plenty of room to walk around and explore. Mm-hmm. Plenty of close by restaurants, and the Swan Dolphin area has a lot of really fantastic restaurants there.
Yeah. We ate at Luzu and Kimonos. We tried to get into Trattoria. We had a reservation, but we'd eaten there before the first time we went. But it was a very, very busy evening. So and everybody was getting hungry, so we made a little audible and went over to Kimonos.
Well, we do a couple nights in Walt Disney World, mm-hmm. and then it is time to board our cruise. How did we get to the port?
We took Disney transportation. So Friday morning, we hopped on the Friendship launch, took the boat over to I think it stops in front of the yacht club, but had our bags ready to go. We weren't because we were staying at the Dolphin and not the beach club. We had our suitcases with us, but we got there about 9 and walked over to the beach club, checked in. They took our bags. They were tagged already. And then we had about a 30-minute wait before the buses got there. And we left the beach club about 9:45. The drive to Port Canaveral was about an hour. Super easy. Kids just watched, they had a little TV and kept us all entertained. And so that's how we got there.
When you booked that transportation, did you have to call and say, hey, we're staying at the Swan and Dolphin? Like, how do we use the Disney transportation? What was their response to that? Of course, we know what the outcome was. I'm just curious how booking that went.
I don't know if I had to call, but I did call. And I mean, that every time, I think there were probably 2 or 3 times that I was on the phone with somebody from DCL's customer service, and they were super helpful. So yeah, I mean, it was a quick call and just told them where I was staying, where we were coming from, because I think they had it in their notes initially that we'd be at the airport. When I went through the check-in process a month before, I couldn't find where to note where we were staying as our hotel. So that's why I called, and it's a good thing that I did.
Great. Well, your family gets to the port. Were you in the actual Disney port?
We were in Terminal 10. So, yeah, we did not get to go to Terminal 8.
A bummer for sure then. Yeah, they have it built up over on that side. They have a model of the Magic in there. It's a very nice terminal, and it is a shame that when the ships are doubled up, the Wish does not seem to get that spot there. Well, then, what was the embarkation process like for you? Was it what you had expected? Were there any hiccups there?
No, I mean, no hiccups. It was what I expected. I had it in my head that our port arrival time, I forget, I think it was like 11:30. We got there about 11, and, we check-in was super easy. Security, we got through there. Concierge was still in the terminal, so we knew that we weren't going to get on for a bit, but we were boarding group 4. So, we had a 20-30 minute wait by the time we got through everything. And we checked into the ship's Wi-Fi on our apps, and, and just killed a couple minutes while we waited, and we were on the ship by noon.
So before we talk about your grand entrance onto the Wish, as first-time cruisers, what resources did you use to kind of figure out what you wanted to do, what you wanted out of the sailing?
Not trying to, butter you up, but the DCL podcast was a huge part of it. And I think I've probably listened to every one of your shows about the Wish at this point. And, I also relied on the DCL Reddit community. They're very active and very passionate, but really helpful too. Anytime I had a question. There was also a little bit of Copilot and Chat GPT that I would go to if I had a question, and the Disney Cruise website. So those were the 4 main resources.
Great. Did you watch any videos of the Wish or look at any materials of the Wish, or did you really step on the ship more or less blind?
No. Okay. Yeah. I forgot about that too. Yeah. I was able to even find a YouTube video with our precise stateroom. So I knew exactly what it looked like. And yeah, I watched a bunch of, there was one, what are they called? Vloggers. There was one in particular that was really helpful. It was a 3-night, a family like ours, and just to kind of watch their adventure, and and sort of have it in our minds that we wanted to model our trip kind of like theirs, and that's pretty much what happened.
Great. So we board the Wish. What was your family's reaction to the entrance into the Grand Hall?
Yeah, it was a lot of emotions, and I forget if it was me or my wife, but we kind of glance at each other, and we're starting to get a little teary. But you walk in, and it's this, they announce your name, and that part was, it was kind of hectic, so it goes really quickly. I don't think you have enough time to appreciate it. We get past that part, and they hand the kids the wand, and I think it's the fairy godmother that's up above the main stage, that they're welcoming people, and yeah, the kids, I think, were just sort of taking it all in. It's it's huge and beautiful, and Cinderella's right there, and it's a really lovely space.
Yeah, that is such a beautiful grand entry there onto the Wish. Is your family big planners? Did you have an itinerary for what you wanted to get done on that first day, or are you more go with the flow and adventure into what you find on board?
It's a little bit of both, but for this, I had something in mind, and I wanted the family to feel like it was go with the flow. I think it helps when one person is one of those things, and the rest get to feel like it's a little more organic, but they're packing a lot in. So for our first Disney World trip, that was my wife, and for this round, it was me.
So you have your grand entrance. Where does your family head next?
We, based on, countless advice that I had read and heard, and we went straight up to Marceline and got lunch. Again, our group was kind of getting kind of hungry, and so yeah, the only unfortunate thing about all that and all the walking around that we did on embarkation day is that I had 2 bottles of wine in my backpack that were really starting to get pretty heavy, but that's okay. Marceline was a really good reprieve to be able to put that down and get some food. And I didn't, in hindsight, Marceline had so many stations, and we really just kind of went for the first one. That first station has like prime rib, and we found some mac and cheese for the kids, and just things to nosh on that. And then after we had eaten, I went back and looked at some of the other stations and was like, oh man, missing out on these crab claws and shrimp and other things that I really would have liked to enjoy, but that's okay.
Yeah, sometimes that first walk into Marceline, you just start filling up your plate at that first station. Yeah. And best advice is to do a lap, take a look, and see what's offered. Sometimes some of those stations in the back have some different specialty items that change.
Really good stuff. Yeah, next time for sure.
So we fill everyone's tummies up. Where are we heading next on our embarkation day?
So we walked up to the Hero Zone. We took those stairs right outside of Marceline and walked up to 12. And some part of me was hoping that Incredibles thing was the obstacle course was blown up, but it wasn't. I think that that happened minimally over the course of the 3 days. But the kids still they played some air hockey and we shot some hoops and then I wanted to go out to the pool, but I couldn't find the entrance to the pool. I mean, later obviously I did, but that's okay. We were there for a couple minutes, and around 1 we decided to go back down to the main atrium and do the open house for the Oceaneer Club. And so we took the kids there. Our rooms weren't ready for another 30 minutes, so we walked through Oceaneer, and the kids, the first stop there was the Star Wars area, and then we hit up the Marvel section, and then the kids got to design their own roller coaster. The crowds were starting to pour in a little bit, but they got their feel for the Oceaneer Club and got excited about that. It was a really good way to introduce that to them, so that so they weren't alarmed the first time that we dropped them off there, because they had already been.
Yeah, always a good idea to get their toes wet in the Oceaneers Club down there, especially when you can be down there with them and show them all of the neat things.
Yeah, we got their bands, we got them checked in, so yeah, we were all set from that point. We did that for that took us about 20-25 minutes, and and then right after that, our rooms were ready pretty much right at 1:30. They took the dividers off, and we walked up to our stateroom, and we were on the starboard side on deck 10. We had one of the bump out deluxe family veranda rooms. So ours was Little Mermaid themed, which our daughter loved, and our son was ambiguous about, I guess, and ambivalent. The only hiccup there, probably not the worst part of, I'll say that was the worst part of our day, which grand scheme wasn't too bad, but our bags weren't ready yet. Our bags had not arrived, which was fine. I mean, I did get to set my heavy wine bottles down and relieve myself of a little bit of the weight there, and we changed into our swimsuits, and by the boat, of course, was still docked. So with Terminal 10, I'm not sure what we were looking at. I think we were just facing like the bus loading area. It wasn't the best view of that port, but that's okay.
How did the room accommodations work for your family? Did you feel like it was enough space for you?
Yes, they were. Yeah, I mean, it was pretty perfect. We knew what the pros and cons would be, but there frankly weren't many cons. I mean, the drop down bed, the kids, I guess the worst part about a 3-night is with 2 kids, they did fight over who got to sleep there 2 nights. And but I mean, the bedding was great. Our bed was super comfortable. I think it was a queen, but it was, it's plenty of room. And we by the time our bags did come, we got to unpack everything, and then we put our luggage underneath the bed. Yeah, we never felt cramped.
Yeah, those bump outs can give you a nice different view as well, rather than just straight out from the ship.
Yeah.
Well, you get settled in your room. I would guess that it is probably time for your muster drill.
We did our muster drill about 310, something like that. And ours was at 1923, so where we were going to be having dinner that night. And so we went down and did the muster drill, and the kids were very well behaved for that. I was pleased about that. They weren't making too much noise. Everybody was. The cast members really, took good command of that session. So yeah, had the muster drill that lasted half an hour from start to finish, and then we did a quick swing by our room to see if our bags were there, and they still were not, but that's okay. And then we went up to the pool deck for the sail away party. So yeah, that was a wonderful time. Kind of everything that we had hoped that it would be, and the kids were really into it. They really, it occurred to me that they kind of saved Mickey. I had no, we saw a lot of characters, but we did not see Mickey until the sail away party.
We do that. Where is your family heading next on your embarkation?
That we finally went down because pool deck's just deck 11. So, on deck 12, so we just took one flight of stairs down to our room. Finally, our bags were there. We changed into our swimsuits, and, people were exploring the ship and, kind of en masse. So I had it in my mind that wanted to take the kids on Aquamouse. It was early January, so it was pretty cold up top, especially as the sun was starting to set. But, and one thing I wanted to note about, I don't know if every ship is this way, but in the middle of the sail away party, the horn hadn't even gone off yet. But I looked over and I realized we're moving. Like I didn't feel us push away. That ship was really smooth. I don't know if they're all like that, but the Wish was we had very minimal turbulence. I don't know what the ship word is. We never felt we felt the rocking minimally across our whole time there. But that was a cool moment just to look over and be like, oh my God, we're moving right now. So yeah, then we got on our clothes and on our swimsuits and went up to the pool deck and got in line for Aquamouse. That was probably, 5-10 minute wait. Not too bad. Did that. Super cold, but a lot of fun. I don't want to spoil the show, but the moments when when you get sprayed, it's kind of alarming. But the ride itself was wonderful. So I think the kids did it twice. Yeah, and then we got in one of the pools that was kind of heated, I guess. Yeah, the pool was a nice reprieve from the cool air. So did that for a little bit and enjoyed the tunnel vision. I think Hercules was playing, and by that point it was time to go get ready for dinner, and the kids wanted to go to the kids club a little bit. So we were second seating. Yeah, we all got dressed, took them down to the kids club, and then my wife and I went. Well, we first tried to go to Hyperspace Lounge. And then we took a picture outside. That was a lot of fun. I wanted one of the drinks, that cloud that they blow over and then it goes poof. That looked like a lot of fun, but there was nowhere for us to sit. So we spent about a minute, maybe two in the Hyperspace Lounge, got the vibe, and then realized it's not for us. I love Star Wars, and I still love Star Wars. I get the feedback on the Hyperspace Lounge now, having gone through that. And then, so we popped over to Bayou after that, and that was wonderful. Had an amazing, we just sat at the bar, and the vibe there was great. I enjoyed a Long Island iced tea, which is kind of my vacation drink, and my wife had a Chardonnay, and I think there was music playing, maybe. There's music playing from somewhere, but we found that bar really charming.
Did you skip the show on the first night then?
We did. Our kids aren't super patient for sitting in musical theater. We took them to Lion King on Broadway back in October in New York, and so that I think their cup was pretty full on shows. So we've done a few, but they frankly weren't very interested. And I'm okay with, I'm sure Seize the Adventure, which is that first night. I'm sure it's a lovely show, but I kind of liked having, half the people are in the show and half the people are at dinner, and we had the boat to ourselves. We walked, the kids club was quiet. My wife and I walked around, and there just weren't any people. So that was kind of a cool experience.
Were you assigned second seating? Did you have any reservations about that with your kids? Did you try to make a change for that?
I thought about it. Yes, we were assigned second seating. I thought about asking to switch. And what did it for me were a couple things, which I think just worked to our advantage. Knowing that we were going to get off the boat on Castaway Key, having the extra time, that buffer, and not having the rush to get to dinner, I thought that would be nice. And then on the last day too, not, and I mean, when you're on a cruise, every hour counts. So having that extra hour to
Not
get up,
having to be at breakfast at 5:30 in the morning or whatever it is.
Exactly. That's right. So yeah, our breakfast was at 8 on the last day. And yeah, so I mean, I thought about it, but it ended up working out really well for us.
Well, why don't we turn this towards dining? What was your dining rotation? And where were
Sure.
you the first night?
The first night was 1923. We were on the, I think, Roy Disney side as far as our entrance. And, we were seated next to to a family that we were in line behind on the Aqua Mouse. So, and we had chatted with them in the line there. And then we go to dinner and they're right next to us at the table, which is cool because, as you know, you're seated with the same people every night. So, that was a lot of fun. And I've never been to an all-inclusive. I've never been to a restaurant like that where it's just, I've been to a buffet before, but the opportunity to order whatever I want off the menu, I mean, that was a fun novelty for me. So, we did end up ordering every single appetizer at 1923, and the kids had their, we explained it to them, you can order whatever you want, but I think they just ordered like cheeseburgers, but so pretty, nothing too adventurous there, but really enjoyed the food. I had the filet. My wife, I think, also had the filet. I think we each ordered one drink there, but yeah, it was really good.
Yeah, definitely a great first rotational meal. One of my favorites in the whole Disney Cruise Line fleet is that 1923 meal with that filet.
Yeah, we were, and then the art is just so cool seeing, and explaining to the kids how they make, how animation works and kind of how it starts. And I think we were seated near like some Tangled designs and yeah, I mean, just really cool ambiance there.
So with that later dining time, did your family get up to anything after that, or is it pretty much eat and get ready for bed type of situation?
The kids went back to the kids club for a little bit, but their stamina was starting to go down. I think it was probably 30 minutes, and my wife and I just kind of walked around a little bit. I forget. Yeah, I think the shops were open, and so we just kind of walked into some of those shops. But then we picked them up. We were all starting to get tired, so we picked them up and took them to bed. Our stateroom attendant had taken down the bunks and designed I think the first night was a crab. Our pillow was the towel crab that they leave on your bed. So I mean, yeah, that was really cool to come back to. Craig was our stateroom attendant. He was great.
So before we move on from your first night, I do have one question. I, as our listeners know, do not have children, so I cannot speak for the opinions and thoughts of getting to enjoy a vacation like this with kids. What was your perspective of seeing your children, first off, come up to this ginormous ship and being like, yes, this is our floating hotel for the next couple days, and watching them experience all that the Wish has to offer? I know it can be a very overwhelming day, but also a very exciting day for all of the cool functions that you get to enjoy for the next few days.
It was everything that we'd anticipated. I mean, I don't want to be cliched and, call it a magical day, but, I mean, Disney just takes such great care of the kids, and they were, I was a little apprehensive that they would like the kids club and that they'd be into all of it. And yeah, I mean, it was just, and we didn't tell them about the cruise until a week before, just because they have, they have minimal, their patience, their understanding of time isn't quite like ours. But we did the Mickey call on Christmas Day, and that whole experience was really, really nice. But they got super comfortable on the boat. They knew their way around and really made themselves at home.
Awesome. Love to hear it. We move into your second day. This should be Nassau, correct?
Yeah, second day was Nassau, and we did not get off the boat, which, not many podcasts of yours that I've listened to do. I mean, I think almost everybody stays on. My wife had signed up for a spin class, and so she did that at 7 a.m., which was very ambitious, but I got a little room service, so that was delivered about, I think I ordered that for like 7:30. It was super prompt. She got back. We enjoyed some croissants and juice and whatnot. So, and then we, just kind of enjoyed our veranda, a nice, calm morning. Yeah, when she got back, I did pop up to Cove Cafe and got us 2 coffees. And the little print that they did for us was Mickey Mouse and Rapunzel. So that was a cool novelty. Yeah. And so we enjoyed a nice morning, but we did go up to Marceline for a quick breakfast, but we had something to get to. I was able to book the Royal Gathering we had a 9:45 time for that. So we did Marceline for breakfast, and then we're in the atrium by 9:45 for Royal Gathering.
Was there a charge for the spin class?
Yes, there was. Yeah.
Did she sign up for that beforehand or just see it on the app and show up to it?
Gosh, that's a great question. I don't remember. I want to say she went to check out at one point. She went to check out the gym, and yeah, I think she signed up for it there. I don't think she did it through the app.
Did she enjoy it?
Loved it. Yeah, she said it was great. She was, at one point she was regretting it. Not wake up, but it was the night before. She was like, should I cancel? And I actually went to guest services to see if that could be canceled. And they told me that they weren't certain that it could be canceled without without us being charged at least. So she woke up and did it anyways. And yeah, ended up really enjoying it.
You have your coffee and breakfast. Where does your family set off to on the ship next?
Yeah, we went down. We had done all that. It was about 9 a.m. by this point. Our son loved the kids club, so he was just begging us to go. We let him go do the kids club for a little bit. The Royal Gathering started, but our time wasn't until 9:45. So we just killed. We dropped them off, killed a little bit of time. I forget what we did, frankly. Probably just walked around and then we went and picked them back up and did the Royal Gathering. I had heard that they do, that the princesses sign things. So had a little notepad for my daughter to give around and yeah, we met all the princesses, and my son wanted to go back to the kids club, but I'd seen on the app that the in-credit course was available, so he was very interested in that. And so we went up there. This was probably 10:30, something like that. Maybe it was even 11, but yeah, we got in line. We were starting to get, it's so funny. You're going to hear me say we were starting to get hungry. We eat a ton, but I think all the, you also burn a lot of calories walking upstairs and so forth. So we got in line for the in-credit course. That line didn't take too long, but my wife and I kind of flip-flopped going to Marceline to get some food. So I was there when they took off. My son finished before not too long, but my daughter, she's only 5. I was sitting there recording and she never came down. So I stopped recording, and then finally she made it over. But they wanted to do that again, but I convinced them that they needed to go eat some food instead. So we popped over to Marceline and got lunch, and then we hit up the pool for a little bit. My daughter wanted to go check out the Slidosaurus Rex, and that was the longest line that we had to endure for the entire cruise, which broad strokes wasn't too bad, but it was a very long line. So, that was probably 20-25 minutes that we were just waiting. So we did that. It was kind of madness and lunch for, we found what do they call it? The Festival of Foods, stumbled upon that. So, by this point, we're still just kind of getting our bearings, but the kids are darting around. We're going man defense one-on-one. So my wife was with my son, I was with my daughter, and just enjoying that time. But we did have a spa. My wife and I had a couples massage at 2. We went back to our room, changed clothes, we got ready for our appointment, then went and dropped the kids off at the kids club, and then we went and had a 50-minute spa appointment at Senses.
What was you and your wife's thoughts on the spa itself and on the treatment you had done?
Yeah, it was nice. We have the Disney Premier Visa card, so it was 20% off, which was a nice surprise at the end. The rooms were very nice. I didn't get to explore any of the the rainforest room or that area very much. And usually our MO is, when we get a massage, is to really enjoy all the amenities to get a massage and then enjoy a steam and a shower, or the sauna, and kind of enjoy whatever they have to offer. But us being on a cruise and every minute counting, and we really just kind of had the massage and then got out of there to go check on the kids. So, but yeah, I don't know if I would do it again. Very relaxing, and they were very nice. They took good care of us.
Yeah, it can always be lovely to get a treatment on any of the ships. The spas are usually very lovely, but I do agree. It's something my wife and I will do occasionally, but it's not an every time type of
right.
amenity.
So yeah, we went and picked up the kids. It was, I mean, this was probably 3:30 on Saturday by this point, and we were all starting to fade. So we just went back to the room for a little bit of wind down time, which was important. And you know what? Like, I'm so sorry. I missed on Friday night. I knew there was a big gap. On Friday night, my daughter did the Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique, and I totally forgot about it. So she had an Elsa makeover on Friday night. And I bring that up only because we had thought about doing the pirate makeover for our son on Saturday, but we ended up just getting stuff ourselves and doing it in our room.
What did you think of Bibbidi Bobbidi Boutique, and did your daughter enjoy it?
Yes, she did. Loved it. She had never had anything like, she's gotten her nails done before, but she'd never been kind of the center of attention like that at a salon kind of place. So what they do to the hair is something else. I'm not a huge fan of glitter, and gosh, there was a lot of glitter in that outfit, but that's okay. She felt like a princess, and I think we got what we wanted out of that. And they give you a lot of, it comes with the dress and the sash and the makeup and the purse, and you get a lot of stuff. So it's good value for what you get.
Definitely a fun experience to have with your children.
Yeah.
Moving back onto our Nassau day here, what did your family get up to next?
So yeah, Saturday afternoon, we stayed pretty chill for a little bit. No, yeah, I guess we hadn't gotten our pirate costumes on yet, but we did go to check out bingo, which was held in Luna. And so we got we had one of those little tablets, and I think we paid like $40-$50, something like that, for that first day. The grand prize would have been $5,000. Enjoyed bingo with everybody. The kids had a lot of fun, though my son was furious that we didn't win. And but nobody won the grand prize. So the next day was going to be a $10,000 grand prize. But so yeah, we did that for an hour, and then we went back to our room and got ready for dinner and pirate night. And again, the show that night was Little Mermaid. And again, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, but we didn't go just because the kids they're just not that into it. So we did turn it on in our stateroom, and so that was fun. My daughter at one point also wanted to go see if Mufasa was playing in the movie theater, and I think it was in Neverland. And so we went and popped into Mufasa for a little bit. And yeah, again, we just kind of explored the boat while everybody was either in the show or at dinner.
And that's one of the best things about a cruise is you can choose what adventure is best for your family.
Yeah.
And that first time when the show and dinner is going on is such a great time to be about the ship. It's always so quiet. You can get into any venue you need.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it was really nice. I'd had my eyes set on, we were on the ship walking around on Saturday, but the shops were closed, which I learned they close when you're at port. So I was trying to go into the shops and kept popping into the main atrium like, well, it's still closed. When are they going to open it? Well, they opened it when we pushed back and had left Nassau. But yeah, we let the kids do a little bit of the kids club. We were dressed in our pirate gear, but that second night was Worlds of Marvel. But but after the first dinner ended, before our dinner started, we went up to the main deck for the pirate show, and that was a lot of fun. We really enjoyed that.
Was that the dance party or the Parley Parlay, like the rock show? I
forget which. There was a show on stage where like Mickey, Captains Mickey and Minnie were trying to thwart off Captain Hook. I'm not sure which one describes that, but that's what was happening. And everybody was up there. There was music and dancing, and so which one of those does that describe?
Did you have fireworks with that one?
Fireworks were after dinner.
Okay. So that was the like dance party, the younger one. The parlay party correct. Is the kind of more, it's the more like adult rock show, and that's the one that includes the fireworks at the end.
Gotcha. Okay. Then yeah, we did not go to that one. We were in our stateroom for the fireworks.
Gotcha. Were you able to see the fireworks from your stateroom?
We were, yeah. I think, I'd read conflicting advice that said, do not be out there. Or, I mean, I think at the very least, they just don't want you to have things out there. But the wind was blowing the fireworks away from the ship. So it's not like stuff was, there was debris or smoke or anything coming onto our veranda. It was lovely. But yeah, we ate it. We'd eaten at Worlds of Marvel right before the fireworks. My daughter fell asleep at dinner. Yeah, this was the second night. My daughter fell asleep at dinner. My son is out of his mind. He asked for the kids club and we said no, just because they were both kind of loopy at that point. It was just a long day and they'd expended a lot of energy doing a lot of things, and Spider-Man did come to our table, which was cool. And yeah, I mean that was a cool show.
So then after dinner, did you get up to anything or was it right to bed?
We went back to the room and I went and got everybody. Another thing that I learned that I need to be better about on the next one is how easy it is to not drink water. So I realized we were all pretty, we were just all pretty thirsty, and we weren't, I think we were starting to get dehydrated. And we had water at dinner, but it's like just throughout the day, you need to stay hydrated. And so yeah, after dinner, back in our stateroom, people, were getting ready for bed. I forget what the towel animal was that night, but the kids loved it every night. Yeah, I went and grabbed us some water, and by that point, the fireworks were coming on. So we went out on the veranda and just enjoyed a really lovely night watching the fireworks and had a good view. And there were a bunch of people on the verandas to the sides of us that were out there as well.
Nothing wrong with an early to bed, especially when you have such an exciting next day, which is your Castaway Day. What were your expectations for Castaway?
Castaway, my expectations were kept low, kept in check. I mean, I didn't plan anything. We didn't have any excursions. We didn't do the Stingrays or the bikes or the marathon or anything, the marathon 5K. And, we woke up, we kept it pretty casual. I went and got us more coffee from Cove Cafe. That became a nice little routine of ours. And from the Cove Cafe, I could see people getting off the boat and running to Castaway. I don't know if that's, if it's a thing to like be the first one to get a chair or get a cabana or anything, but yeah, some people were very eager, I think, to go and get their spot. But we took our time. We went and had breakfast at Marceline, and then but we were ready. We were ready to get off the ship. We had we had our Case of the World card, everything ready to go for a day there. Got off. That was super easy. This was January 5th by this point, but Castaway still had the Christmas tree up, which was really nice. So we took a picture next to that, and there were several more photo opportunities along as we got onto the island. We didn't take the tram. We just ended up walking, which was really pleasant. It's not that far of a walk, and so we toughed it out. And then by the time we got onto the island, there was still a ton of chairs available. I mean, the water was cold, but once you got used to it, it was really, kind of refreshing. So we had a lovely Castaway day. Our daughter played in the sand. She did make me buy. We didn't have any beach toys, so I bought her, this little like Moana set. It was like $25, not nothing too crazy. And that was all that we spent on the island, just because the food's free. So yeah, the kids played. Then after a while, my wife wanted to read a book. I gave her a little bit of quiet time to read, and I took the kids over to the Pelican Plunge, and they rode that probably 15 times each. And I even went down it a couple times, and it's a pretty cool slide. So I mean, in hindsight, we didn't get to explore Castaway. There's a lot more that we could have done. My son and I played basketball in that little into shade. We did that for a couple of minutes. They didn't get to, what's it called? Scuttle's Cove, the kids area. Yeah, like they didn't go there at all. We stayed with them the whole time we were on Castaway, but plenty of room for us to do more stuff when we go back. So, kept the day to ourselves, to whatever we wanted to do. Lunch was served by 11:30. We were very ready. We were basically first in line for that, but enjoyed the ribs and the burgers and the food from Cookies. I guess there's a Cookies too, right? That serves the exact same things. Yeah. We didn't, for instance, I never found Cookies too. I never made it that far. So I know there's a lot more to the island that we probably could have explored and didn't. But yeah, I mean, that's what occupied the first couple hours on Castaway. And then we went back and found my wife, and we convinced her to go do the Pelican. She hadn't gotten in the water yet, so we convinced her to go do the Pelican Plunge with us.
Are your kids pretty comfortable in the water? Did you have to use the included life jackets or anything?
We did. My son can swim great. We had him in a life jacket. Less about him, more just peace of mind for us, so that just better safe than sorry. I'd rather him have it and not need it. And then for our daughters, certainly.
Well, is your family generally like beach people? Do you prefer to go to a beach or?
We prefer, we vacation in Charleston every year. So yeah, we're beach people. Yeah, we'll go skiing every couple of years, but we're more beach people.
How do you feel like the Castaway experience then compares to, say, a Charleston beach? I know they are very different. It's a little more curated.
So different. Yeah. I mean, it's an extension of the cruise, except on a beach. And so, yeah, I mean, it's just so, I like that the food was, that everything was included there, and it's a lovely island, it's a lagoon. So, you don't have to worry about my daughter's petrified in any waters of sharks. She thinks there's sharks everywhere, but we had a lovely day there. And then the last thing, as we were going to go back to the ship, it was probably 1:00. And then we decided, we saw some people snorkeling and thought like, oh, but, I wonder if you have to have a reservation for that. Walked up to the booth. Turns out, no, we just paid a little bit. And I'm contradicting myself earlier. I think I said that was all that I spent on Castaway. I forgot about the snorkeling. We paid to go snorkeling, and there was tons of equipment available. The guy was super nice. He only charged us for one adult and one child, which was really nice. But he ended up giving us 4 pieces of equipment, and so we went out snorkeling, and we ended up swimming. The kids had never done it before. My son did great. My daughter ended up not doing the fins, so I just held her hand and swam her out there. But we saw a ton of fish, and I mean, it was a really, really nice adventure. Probably my favorite thing that we did while we were across the whole cruise. That was the best family time that we had.
Did you get to see any of the hidden things sunken down into the water there?
Oh gosh, maybe, and maybe I didn't know what they were. I mean, we saw some structures that I guess would not. I mean, can you give me an example, like what that might be?
So they have some intentional things sunk down in there. There's There's some character statues down there. There's actually a ride attraction vehicle sunk down in there. Yeah, it's an old Nautilus submarine.
Then no, we did not see any of that. No, but yeah, I mean, we saw a lot of fish, and the interesting kind of little homes that the fish make for themselves. And it's not coral. Well, is it coral? I guess I don't know. And so yeah, we didn't see any of that. We'll have to put that on our bucket list for next time to go look for some of those hidden things.
Yeah, some of them you have to go pretty far out, but some of them you can see they actually have buoys to mark where they are, so you can
we
find
were
them.
About 100 yards out, but we did stay away from the buoys. So yeah, we didn't really swim close. We were between the buoys, but not really close to one of them.
It's still great though that your kids were able to enjoy it. I know sometimes getting the masks and snorkels to work on younger ones can be a bit difficult or a bit claustrophobic for some.
Yeah, she started struggling with her, with the flow of breathing and looking, and when you had to pull your head up, kind of relieving yourself of the salt water, and just that she wasn't used to all that. So she took her mask off before we had fully gotten back in. But yeah, we all had a lovely time.
Any other thoughts on Castaway before you head back on the ship?
No, I mean, it's a great island experience. I 10 out of 10. It was easy to return our equipment and gather our things and walk back. I think it's just a very safe experience, and and everybody there you can trust. So I sort of just learned to let that go and enjoy the island. And when it was time to go, we about 2:30 we started walking back, grabbed the kids their second or third ice creams of the day, and we wanted to catch a tram because we were kind of tired, but it was pretty full, so we ended up walking back again. It's 15 minutes, not too bad. I carried all their stuff and took a couple more, took some post Castaway photos, and then getting back on the ship was really easy. No long lines or anything.
So you get back on the ship. I'm going to guess it is just about time to get ready for dinner.
Yeah, just about. Yeah, we went back to our room, and so that night the show was Aladdin. We did not go for bingo, the $10,000 bingo that last night. We did it. We had fun, but we didn't want to spend another $50 just to lose. So we cut our losses. Yeah, got dressed. Kids wanted to go back to the kids club. I mean, they did that a bunch. My wife wanted to go and learn more about Disney Vacation Club. And they had a little booth on deck 4. And so we walked over and just asked a couple of questions, learned about that, let the kids play. And she and I walked around for a bit and, just kind of explored a little bit more. And we popped our heads into Aladdin, but we didn't stay. I mean, it was, I just kind of wanted to see what the production was like and what the vibe was. But yeah, dinner the last night was going to be at Arendelle, which is no surprise to you. Picked the kids up, went back to our room. Our stateroom attendant had already turned over the room for the evening, and so he had made my son ran into it, and he had made a little like a towel snake for him that my son just carried around with him. Like they went. I've got a picture with them in Arendelle. And he's holding this towel snake, and my daughter, I forget what she's holding, but then we walked that long hallway down to Arendelle, but they got us seated, and we had a pretty good view. I can't remember where the column placement was, but my daughter certainly could see the stage, so I was very, very, very glad about that. I was worried, just based on some of the things that I'd heard that the view can make or break that experience, that dining experience. But yes, we sat down, and my wife and I each ordered one of their frozen fractals, the blue drinks that I don't know what's in them, but they're very themey for Frozen. And again, my kids just had cheeseburgers, and I think I did the thing again where I ordered every entree, and it was a lovely show. So trying to think of what else from that. The characters come around, and my daughter's thrilled. She's just entranced the whole time.
What did you think of the food at this restaurant? I find that this is the most adventurous of the 3 menus you would have.
It was. I had a baked scallop, which is not something I would normally order. And it comes in its presentation is interesting. It's like a souffle, or is it a souffle? I guess technically. And so yeah, I mean, you're right. That was the most adventurous menu.
And your whole family enjoyed the show. Then I'm glad to hear that you were able to get viewing. I know. You're right. It can be very hit or miss at that restaurant for sure.
Mm-hmm. My son complained about it, but he was and he'll swear up and down that he did not enjoy it. I asked him later if he would rather do the mustard drill or the frozen dinner again, and he said mustard drill. Even though he was into the show, he was paying attention, but trying to play a little too cool for school. And he did say, he said that was the best burger of the whole cruise for him. So yeah, we enjoyed the show. The only thing that I noticed that Olaf never came out when I'd watched a video or heard people talk about it. I think Olaf was supposed to be a feature, and there was no sight of him. The kids were none the wiser. They didn't even know that he was supposed to be there, so that was fine. It's interesting that they do that. The characters are not the ones singing. They've got this little trio of musicians, one of whom plays the violin or fiddle, and they do most of the singing, and the show is led by the Wandering Oaken, and Anna and Elsa and Kristoff are kind of their background players to the whole thing. So that was interesting, but regardless, they were the kids and we were into it.
Love it. Well, you are unfortunately in your final hours of your sailing. Mm-hmm. Did you get up to anything before you headed to bed for the night?
Yeah, we let the kids go back to the kids club for a little bit. Let my son especially say his final goodbyes, and they both wanted to go find friends that were there. I think along the way they met a ton of kids, and I think the kids are so funny because they like make little plans, like, hey, let's meet here after dinner, and so yeah, they went back there for a little bit, and I'd been dead set on buying a hat, so I've got a little, I did go to the shop and bought a little Disney Cruise Line hat, and we walked I guess that's deck 5 with that has there's a little bit of a walking path And so I went out there and, enjoyed the cool air and, not much, kind of unceremonious, went back, got them ready for bed. And then we didn't make because we had the second seating for breakfast the next morning, we didn't make too much of a fuss on packing. We just kind of wanted to get our sleep. And so we put them to bed and we went, and I went up to the pool deck and decks 11 and 12 and just kind of, took some pictures, enjoyed the night sky. And, it was close to empty. They were paying, I forget what movie they were playing, but, just enjoyed a little bit of the ship to myself, kind of, you breathe heavy and, kind of say goodbye to it all. And then, went back and went to sleep. And that was our last night.
Throughout the sailing, you had mentioned going to Tiana's as well as Hyperspace Lounge. Did you and your wife get to experience any of the other adult spaces on board?
Okay, now that you mention it, that when I was doing that final walkthrough that night, when the kids had already fallen asleep, I happened upstairs and I forget if it's 11 or 12. I think it's on 12. I stumbled upon Enchante and Paolo and the Rose. And I kind of peeked my head into the Rose and was like, oh, and then I went back to my wife and I was like, oh my God, there's a whole other section that we didn't get to explore. And so next time we need to go get a drink there because it looks really nice. And that was one thing that we did when the kids were at the kids club post Castaway, but pre-dinner. My wife and I went up to the Cove Cafe and we got more coffees and we enjoyed a really nice sunset together. It was really quiet and we just sat on some of the chairs up there and watched the sunset and drank coffee. And that was a really nice time for the two of us. Yeah, well, we loved that. Then that was her first time at the Cove Cafe.
Well, sadly, the next day is your disembarkation. What was your family's plans for getting home? Did you go right to the airport after that, or did you do any post-day stays?
We did. Yeah, we took Disney transportation to MCO. We got to the airport about 11 because we had our final day breakfast at Arendelle, which was really nice. It was the second one, so not too stressful of a morning. We just kind of threw everything into a suitcase. We didn't worry about packing in an organized fashion, but yeah, went to breakfast and then we got off the ship, took transportation to MCO, and our flight wasn't until like 3. So it made for a pretty long stay at Orlando's airport, which, I think Orlando's airport is fine, but I wouldn't say it's the best for a really long hangout session. And so, fortunately we had access to the Admirals Club for American and got to go there, but it was cramped. It was really, really crowded. So we didn't really have a place to sit, but we did get, little snacks and whatnot. And then we flew, we left at 3 and connected in Charlotte and then back to Dallas that night.
Well, your sailing may be over, but my questions for you certainly are not. First one, we had mentioned pre-show that you had booked the photo package. Which photo package did you book, and did you find you got your value out of that?
We got the unlimited package, and yes, I would definitely do it again just because, Disney does a really great job of stationing photographers everywhere, especially when you're doing things like the Royal Gathering or, and they come to dinner, Castaway Key. They were just, they were everywhere we wanted them to be. That first night we left 1923, there was a photographer right there. And it's so easy because all you have to do is just tell them your stateroom number. And yeah, they make that experience really, really easy. I went in and that last night, my wife, as we were sitting in bed, my wife and I looked through all our photos from the trip and downloaded them all. And that was just part of the package.
Love it. Glad you were able to find value for it. My next question for you, 3 days. Any reservations about that post-cruise? Do you wish you had booked something longer, or did you feel like that was the right choice for your family for your first day?
Of course, I wish that the trip had been longer, but the wish is expensive. My wife and I both work. The kids are in school. It's tough to find Monday to Friday to get 4 nights off, let alone, those are the only itineraries that the Wish does. So, this one, for this being our first cruise and for everything that we did for the experience, I think it was perfect. And, there's a lot of appetite for more, but I have no regrets about having this 3-night sailing be our very first one. And the kids didn't know any better. They don't know that if we if we had experience on a 4 or 5 night sailing and went back to 3, yeah, then it probably would have been less enjoyable. But we were a little blissfully unaware, and so it was perfect.
Well, any day on a ship is still better than a day not on a ship.
I agree. Yes.
So you can't argue with any opportunity to board a Disney Cruise Line ship. Did you have any notable cast interactions you'd like to highlight that we haven't talked about already?
Yeah, I mean, special shout out to our stateroom attendant Craig. He was wonderful, took good care of us. I think he's newer on the ship. He said he'd been there just over a year, and a lot of them, some of them have been sailing with they've been doing this for a while. So I mean, as far as other cast interactions, there were a lot of characters that we saw. We didn't exchange pleasantries or catch the name of, they're a lot of the characters are pros. They'll never give you their name because they're method actors, all of them. But they all just take such good care of the kids. And yeah, our dining crew, they were, our main server and serving assistant, and they were wonderful. I forget their names, to be frank, but one of them after each dinner would do a different magic trick for the kid. He'd round up all the kids that were in his station and do a little magic trick for them, and the kids really loved that. So I wish I could remember his name, but to give him a shout out. But
I only have one more for you, and
okay.
You alluded to it when you filled out our entry form, but what is next for your family?
Yeah, I just realistically don't think that we're going to get to do one this year, which is unfortunate. Patience is the hardest thing in booking a cruise. And the biggest, I talked about our airport stay. Honestly, the biggest disappointment from that Monday was logging into the Disney Cruise app and having no functionality anymore, not having any access to our cruise. So, it's this app that you've been using every day for the past 6 months, and then all of a sudden it's gone. It doesn't work for you anymore. And I want that back. I need that feeling. So last night my wife and I were eyeballing the itineraries on the Destiny for 2026, maybe a 5-night spring break thing. If we can make that work, we did put down a deposit for 2 staterooms. So we've got that in our back pocket, and would love to, one of our takeaways, we saw people cruising with family or with friends. And, as much as we loved our family time, this was our best trip ever. But it would also be fun to have people with us, to have the in-laws, or to travel with, our siblings and their kids so they can have some cousins to run around with. So yeah, the Destiny looks really cool. The Lion King restaurant, my daughter loves Lion King. So, and my son is really into Marvel. So the pitch for him is going to be Black Panther in the main atrium, and, a little bit more his speed as far as the theming. I think that would be a really nice compromise for the two of them.
Love it. I hope that sailing works out for you and your family for sure. How exciting it'll be to be on the newest ship at the time as well. A little familiarity. It'll be a similar layout to the Wish.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
You'll have a little bit of, I know where we are here.
Yeah, all the ships look wonderful. If we can find anything, we're not going to be picky about the Destiny or the Fantasy, or I'm a little dubious about the Magic and I guess the Wonder, just because, the split bathrooms I feel like that with 4 people in a stateroom, that can make or break your trip. So, and they're just a little bit smaller and, maybe a little bit more dated. And I wonder if the kids would have patience for that. But who knows? Maybe, I think the punchline on any of these is any ship is better than no ship. So if we find an itinerary and a price that we like, we will not hesitate to go again.
Well, the Magic and the Wonder does have split bathrooms.
Oh, they do? Okay, great. All right.
Yes,
you can edit all that out then.
Love the Magic. And most people are very fond of the Wonder. That one is just kind of the white whale for most people.
Okay.
Well, it's in Australia
it's in Australia, now. Yeah. There are people, I'm sure, that are just going to be on the Wonder for a solid month as it sails from Australia to Hawaii, and then Hawaii to Alaska, and then I think Alaska down to San Diego. I'm sure someone out there is doing all of those, and that's going to be a cool time for them.
So there are definitely those out there that get to enjoy its beauty.
Gotcha. Well, I stand corrected on the split bathrooms. Then yeah, those are open as well. And the Magic sails out of Galveston, and as I've mentioned, we're from Dallas, so not having to book flights would be, I mean, that's a big pitch as well.
Usually, there's some solid deals to be had with those as well.
I hear things about the Galveston port. Once you're on the ship, who cares?
Right, if it gets you on the ship. Well, John, that is going to do it for this episode. Thank you so much for coming on and sharing your family's experience as first-time sailors on the Disney Wish.
Thank you for having me. I've had a lot of fun reliving my time, and hopefully before too long we'll be back on to talk about our second sailing.
Yeah, when we lock down those plans, definitely make sure to reach out and we will get you back on. Definitely would love to hear what you do different on a second sailing. That is going to wrap up this episode. You can follow myself at MouseGen on YouTube or mouse.gen on Instagram, and you can follow Christy at all places at Pack Your Pixie Dust. And you can always follow the podcast at DCLpodcast.com or DCL_podcast. But that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you all so much for listening, and we will see you next time. Bye, guys.
Well, it's going to wrap up the show. Once again, we want to thank John for coming on and sharing his family's adventure on the Disney Wish. If you're enjoying the show, we greatly appreciate you leaving us a 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. We'd also like to thank our Patreons who help make this show happen each and every week for us. You too can help support the show by visiting us at patreon.com/DCL Podcast. Whether you're boarding a cruise, enjoying a trip to the parks, or adventuring outside of Disney, on behalf of myself, Christy, and Steve, we want to wish you smooth sailings and safe travels. And we'll see you next time on the DCL Podcast.
The DCL Podcast is not affiliated with the Disney Cruise Line, Walt Disney Company, Adventures by Disney, or Run Disney. All of the opinions expressed on our shows are those of the hosts and the guests who appear on the show. If you have any questions about any of these products, please contact the Walt Disney Company.